Excellent, thank you.
And thank you so much for giving us your time as well. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for reading my book. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, we did. Yeah, and I'm halfway through. We've done this one, and now I'm a little way through, about here, of Road to Sparta.
I hope you enjoyed. Have you ever been to Greece?
I haven't. No.
Maybe the book will compel you to go.
I bet it will. Yeah. I've just kind of passed the bit where you've said that you were really jet lagged after getting to Greece, and you were just about to go to sleep in your hotel, and then you were compelled after looking out the window to go out and run, and and when you knew that that's where you should be, and like you'd come home.
I'm getting the chills literally when you're describing that, because I remember it so clearly.
Really. Let's talk about that in a bit with everybody else.
I'll start letting everyone in. There's about a dozen waiting now, so I'm trying to let everyone in. So hopefully we'll start seeing people pop up on the screen.
Hi everybody.
Yeah.
Hi. We have Dean with us already, so give him a wave.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Let me know when we've got everyone, Alan, and then we can crack on.
I think people are going to be joining, I think, over the next 5 or 10 minutes. Let's just kick off, Kim, and I'll keep an eye on those waiting in the lobby.
Okay, let me just get Dean.
Sounds not very good.
Okay, everybody. Well, we are very, very lucky today to have Dean Karnazes with us, all the way from San Francisco. And I can see, Dean, actually, are you standing up there?
I hope everyone is standing up. I encourage you never to sit down. I always stand. Yeah, that's we can talk about that further. Even when I write my books, I'm always standing up because I'm more energetic when I'm standing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I was reading about, he's talking about writing the book, because obviously we're reading, or we have read, or some of us are reading, and some of us may be encouraged to read after this, Ultramarathon Man, Confessions of an All-Night Runner. And I think you said that part of the reason it was called Confessions of an All-Night Runner was because you actually dictated the book during the night while you were running. Is that right?
That's right. I had a digital recorder, and I'd go out running, and when I had a thought, I would just dictate into the recorder, because I was traveling a lot. So then I'd plug in some earbuds during the flight and just type up my notes. And I think anyone that is a runner knows you have some of your deepest thoughts, your most profound and clearest thoughts when you're running. There's a saying, motion stirs emotion. So I think when you're moving, you're just, the thoughts are flowing, and it's a good time to capture what's going through your head.
Absolutely. So let's chat about the book a little bit first of all. Then the thing that kind of hit me first of all with the book, and there's quite a few jaw-dropping moments, but it was the impact that your teacher had, your coach, the cross-country coach, that kind of spurred you on to want to run at that time when you were at school.
Yeah, I had two coaches that really profoundly impacted me in kind of different ways. My first coach was in what we call junior high school here. So I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I won the state championship for the 1 mile race. And afterward, he came up to me and he said, how did it go? And I said, it was good. I enjoyed it. And he said, if you enjoyed it, you did it wrong. It's supposed to hurt like hell. And he walked away. So that kind of left. He said, if it's not painful, you're doing it wrong. It's supposed to really hurt. Mm-hmm. And my next coach was more like a Buddha figure, like a mentor sage. And I remember at the start of the cross country championships, I was so nervous, and my legs were locking up, and I didn't know what to do. So I went over to him, and his name was Benner Cummings, and I said, Benner, I don't know what to do. I'm tensing up, and I don't feel like I can run this race. And he said, don't run with your legs, run with your heart. And it just struck me at that point, don't think about the competition. Don't think about anything. Just go out there and run with your heart. And ever since that day, I've been running with my heart.
Absolutely. And that's quite a big thing, actually, isn't it? That you hear as a runner that when you're completely, especially in marathons, I guess, when people say they're going to hit the wall, that's the time when you really need to run with your heart, isn't it?
I think so. I think that for me, when I hit the wall, what I tend to do is not think about the finish line. I mean, anyone that's run a marathon, you're typically watching the mile markers, counting down.
Yeah.
When things get tough, it's demoralizing because you realize I still have so far to go. So I tend not to think about the future. I try not to reflect on the past, but I try to be in the present moment of time. So in the here and now. And I just say to myself, take your next step to the best of your ability. Take your next step to the best of your ability. Don't think about anything but your next step, and just kind of get in that Zen-like moment where you're just so absorbed in the here and now. And sometimes I do that for an hour or two, and soon enough you look up and there's the finish line.
But you've actually said that I think you say in the book that you actually enjoy the pain. Is that real?
I welcome the pain.
Is that normal?
A lot of people standing at the start of a marathon say to themselves, maybe this will be the race. It doesn't hurt. And that's never the case, right? When have you ever run a marathon or even any race? When does it not hurt? So I instead say, it's going to hurt, and I look forward to when it hurts because it's going to challenge me, and I'm going to see if I can overcome that challenge and push through it. So I think that some of our most memorable experiences are not the easy moments in life, but the really tough moments where we've overcome. And I think when we're struggling and we're facing adversity, we feel more alive than at any other time in our life. And I think anyone that's run a marathon knows that feeling. There's that kind of come to Jesus moment where you have that reckoning, can I keep going? Can I get through this? And once you do, it's magical.
Absolutely. And it's a bit like when you've done something like that, in your book, it kind of makes me laugh because I think we're all familiar with this, is that we've run our marathon or our first 5K or 10K or half a marathon or ultra, and we go back to our everyday job and we go back to the office to people who have no idea of how amazing we are having done that. And we can't show off too much, can we? And you had a similar thing yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I remember walking back to the office on Monday morning after running 100 miles and just kind of limping through the office, and people thinking, what's wrong with this guy? And I never said, hey, I ran 100 miles yesterday. I can't relate. I mean, it's yeah.
Is it what stopped you? Is it you're obviously quite a modest chap then?
I don't know if has anyone run the New York City Marathon? Anyone else in the group?
No.
Not yet. Carolyn has here.
Not yet. I never said not yet. I like that. Not yet. Yeah.
I'd love to.
Probably 50th.
At the New York City Marathon, they encourage you to wear your race medal after the race around New York. And, New York can be a tough place, but it's the one day when even the cabbies are nice to everyone. There's no honking. Everyone seems to be very friendly toward the runners. So you wear your race medal, and anywhere you go, people give you free drinks. They comp your meals. Yeah, it's amazing. People bow to you as you walk by. So it's I don't know, they celebrate it in that regard, and I think that's really special.
That's amazing. I'm definitely signing up to do the New York Marathon. That's brilliant. The other thing I was going to say is going back to your coaches, the other coach that you had when you went back to do track had the complete opposite effect on you, didn't he? And then that was the big moment that you decided that you weren't going to run again and you didn't for another 15 years. I couldn't believe that when I read that. I was not expecting that at all.
Well, I mean, I was 15 years old. I was a teenager, and when you're a teenager, your thoughts aren't always the clearest. You're kind of compulsive, and I'm very compulsive. So yeah, the cross country coach that told me to run with my heart, he retired. but I still wanted to run. And after cross country season was track season. So cross country was out, on trails in the wilderness. Track is around, a track basically at the school yards. And this guy he did not run with his heart. He did nothing with his heart. He had a clipboard and he'd yell at you, and he was a disciplinarian. And I didn't like it. So I just said, I'm going to quit. And I did just that. I literally tied my shoes together and threw them up in a tree and quit running at 15. Yep.
That's amazing. And obviously the impact of your sister's death had quite an impact on your life as well.
Yeah, there's something in me that for 15 years missed running. Anyone that's an ex-runner that I speak with, when I say I'm a runner, they always have this kind of forlorn look, this kind of romantic look in their eye, like, I love to run. I miss it so much. And I kind of had those feelings inside me, but I never ran for 15 years.
What do you, just out of interest, what do you say to people who say to you, I'd love to run, but I can't because I've got a dodgy hip or a dodgy knee? There's lots of people make excuses, don't they?
I try to encourage them. I mean, I've never had an injury. So
I was going to ask you that. Have you really never had an injury?
It's because I never sit down.
The answer.
But no, I've never had an injury, so it's hard for me to relate to someone saying I can't run because of this or that. But I've, especially with the new footwear, I mean, like Hoka shoes, I've talked to people that have hip issues and back issues and knee issues, and they've started to run again. And I always say, you don't have to run fast. You don't have to run far. You just have to get out the door and run. And it might just be a couple kilometers. And I encourage people, just get outside. Just commit to 20 minutes. Do your best for 20 minutes. If you can run for 20 minutes, run. If you have to slow down and walk, shuffle. Just be out for 20 minutes. And it's very rejuvenating. And it kind of builds on itself. Once you do this a few times, it gets in your blood and you want to go further. You want to test yourself.
And I think that's why a lot of people who have mental health issues benefit from running as well, don't they?
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, we're seeing study after study now, especially with survivors and people that have experienced PTSD, how therapeutic running can be. And I know with this pandemic, the only thing that's been saving me is running. I have to be honest. I feel like a caged animal. I'm sure many of you do.
I think we can all relate to that. Sure.
Yeah, there's a certain freedom in running, right? You just lace up your shoes, you go out your door, and you're free. You're unencumbered. Your worries just kind of slip away.
Yeah.
Something about not having responsibility, not worrying, that is liberating.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you did. You kind of liberated yourself on your 30th birthday, didn't you? When you ran out of the bar.
Yeah, so as I told all of you, I stopped running at 15, and I didn't run for 15 years. So I went through university, and then I went through graduate school, and then I went and got a business degree, and I had a very comfortable job in San Francisco. And it was the night of my 30th birthday, and we have a tradition here in America, and I know you do in the UK as well. On your 30th birthday, you go out and you get very drunk with your buddies.
Every birthday.
Yeah.
Not just the 30th.
So I was in a bar, in a nightclub with my friends on my 30th birthday, and at midnight I told them I was leaving, and they said, let's have another round of tequila. I mean, it's your 30th birthday, let's celebrate. And I said, no, instead of having more alcohol to celebrate, I'm gonna run 30 miles right now to celebrate my 30th birthday, which is about 50 kilometers. And they said to me, you're crazy, you're not a runner. And I said, I'm not a runner. I used to be. And they said, but you don't run now, you're drunk now. I am drunk now, but I'm still going to do it. And I walked out of the nightclub. I'll never forget this. I didn't own running gear, but I had these comfortable like silk boxer shorts on, this silk underwear. So I took off my pants and I just started running south into the night, drunk. And I knew there was a town about 30 miles from San Francisco called Half Moon Bay. So I said, why don't you run to Half Moon Bay? And I got a couple hours into it and I started to sober up. I thought, what am I doing? This is crazy. But it just seemed right. I was out there all by myself in my underwear, and the stars were out and the moon was shining. And it just felt like this spiritual moment. And it something said, just keep going. And I ran all night. It was probably 6 or 7 hours straight through the night. And I made it to Half Moon Bay. I made it 30 miles. And that night I decided I was going to become a runner.
And no hangover.
I was a mess. I mean, I said I ran 30 miles, but I stumbled and I crawled, and there was, lots of blisters, and there was lots of chafing, where the sun don't shine, that kind of chafing. It was a mess. I mean, I couldn't walk for 2 weeks. But yeah.
No, and this brings me to the point of your family, because you must have the most understanding wife in the whole world.
I think, like many of you, I drive my wife crazy, and she says, well, "Are you gonna go running today?" especially with the lockdown. I mean, she said, "Please go running." But
yeah.
She's
Does she run?
She runs if she's being chased. She's not a runner.
Oh. So even more understanding then, in that case, I would say.
She was a runner though, wasn't she, in the early part of your book, I thought you said?
She ran when she was in high school, when she was younger, just for pleasure. She's never run a race or anything, just for pleasure. And, like many of you, I've seen relationships grow stronger when both partners run. I've seen relationships be smashed to smithereens when one partner runs and the other doesn't. That can be a recipe for disaster in a relationship. But thankfully, my partner. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. And how about your children? Are they both run, don't they?
They both run. They both enjoy running. I don't push running on them because I've always feared the parental backlash. If you have kids and when they're young, you know that they're going to do the very opposite of what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
If you tell them to go running, they're not going to run. If you tell them to eat well, they're not going to eat well. You just lead by example. So both my kids love to run, and it's kind of in their heart.
Yeah. Was it a bit of a case of at school, the teacher was a bit like, "Oh, your dad's Dean Karnazes, then you must be a good runner. Get in the team, the running team."
I think there's a little pressure there. Yeah, I think so.
How old are they now?
My daughter is 24 and my son is 22, so they're older now. Cool. But they've seen me as an ultramarathoner their whole life. So from the day they were born, Dad's always been running hundreds of miles and traveling around the world. So they don't notice anything different. Yeah. Yeah,
they're coming around with you in the is it a camper van or
RV?
RV, yeah, in the RV.
Yeah, my parents have an RV. We call it the mothership.
That's right.
They crew for me when I was running. There's a couple 200-mile races I would do by myself. It's typically a 12-person relay race, but I don't have 11 friends left. So
I'm sure that's not true.
I'd run the whole thing myself, and they'd cook in the mothership, and hand things out the window to me as I'm running along. I'd grab it and eat as I ran.
I love that, and I love the story of when they ran, the other runners ran past you and said, "Hey, you're Team Dean." That was very sweet, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be running at like mile 150, and most of the people are running 6-mile legs, and we'd be coming up on the transition where they'd get to stop their 6-mile leg and hand the baton to the next runner, and they'd encourage me, "You're almost there. You only have another mile to go, and you'll be at the exchange." And here I have another 50 miles to go. I never said anything. Crazy.
Well, let's go back to the Midwest 100, because that was the first ultra that you ran, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the Western States 100.
States, yeah, that's right. Tell us all about how you came to do that, because wasn't it when you were on a run in San Francisco and you kind of bumped into 2 Army guys?
Yeah, so I was, after my 30th birthday, I started running, and I thought maybe I've run the furthest anyone in the world has ever run, because I knew a marathon was 26.2 miles. And I thought I'd probably run further than anyone. And as I was running one day, these two guys passed me, and I wasn't used to getting passed. I thought I'm the toughest guy around. These guys passed me, and they went up this top of this hill. I couldn't see them, and they emerged, they went over the hill. And when I got up there, they're doing push-ups. And I thought, these guys they're like from a different universe. Who are these guys? And I started talking to them. They weren't very talkative. They were, special forces from the military. And they said, we're training for a 50-mile race. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I said, 50 miles? Like, how do you run 50 miles? Where are the hotels or, the campgrounds? Where do you stop along the way? And he said, no, buddy, the gun goes off and you start running, and when you reach the finish line, you're done. And I thought, a human being is incapable of running 50 continuous miles. I got to try it.
That really dangled. That was the carrot for the donkey, wasn't it? That.
Yeah, and this donkey almost died during the 50-mile race.
Yeah, well, it's very exciting reading about it, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the outcome was not too pretty. I ended up in my car trying to drive home, and my legs locked in cramps, and I started getting violently ill inside the car, unable to move. So it was not a very great experience. No. But I saw the two blokes at the finish, the Navy guys, and they were high-fiving each other. We're in the medical tent kind of thing. They're high-fiving, saying we qualified. And I'm thinking, qualified for what? The insane asylum? No, we qualified for the Western States 100-mile endurance run. And again, circuits started breaking in my head. I said, 100 miles? What do you mean? He said, it's 100 miles. It starts at the base of a ski resort in Lake Tahoe, and it's through the mountains. You have to cross rivers. There's snowfields you have to cross. And I just thought, I couldn't believe what he was saying. And the last thing he said to me is, hey, you know what? You qualified as well. And when he said that to me, I thought, I have to do it. Like if I qualified somehow, I have to try. And that's how I learned about the Western States 100-mile endurance race.
Yeah. And that was one heck of a race as well, wasn't it? The bit that scared me was when you said that you went blind in the night.
Yeah, that scared me as well. Yeah, it's called night blindness, and it's I've learned it's not. I mean, it's uncommon, but it happens to ultramarathoners, and it's scary. When that happened to me, I thought there's no way you're going to be able to keep going. But luckily, it was transient, and I got through it after sitting down and having some food. Actually, what I had was some chocolate-covered espresso beans.
I didn't even know that was a thing until I read that.
Oh, they're horrible.
You can get them in Wittard.
That was in the UK. No.
Apparently.
Horrible, yeah.
Apparently you can get them in the UK.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Years ago.
They're a bit gritty.
When did I think I first had one about 25 years ago. They're disgusting.
Not very nice.
Don't recommend them.
But then maybe they feel different after 150 miles.
Mel, I'll get you some good ones. Mel, I've got a good supplier.
Have you? Who's said they've got a good supply? Oh, Shaker.
And what is your go-to pick me up in the middle of a 100, 200 mile race?
Those work pretty well. You're right. They're gritty and they're they're kind of tough to chew on. But I think the caffeine inside the coffee bean certainly helps.
I was just quite impressed with you running with a whole pizza. That really...
Yeah, that was amazing.
Because funny enough, we just had pizza tonight because our daughter's just got her university place. And so she wanted pizza to celebrate. And as we were eating pizza, I was picturing trying to run with it.
Well, so I'll set the stage. So I was running one of those 200-mile relay races by myself. And I was out in the middle of nowhere. The mothership was nowhere to be found. And I was starving. But I had a cell phone and a credit card, so I ordered pizza delivery as I was running.
I just love the idea that the guys just came to you and would just know where you were because you were more of a regular with them with ordering the pizza.
I told them what road I was on. I knew it was a very straight highway, and I said, just find me out there. I'll be the only guy out there. And I don't order the pepperoni pizza. It's too spicy. You know, it doesn't feel very good. So I ordered Hawaiian style, which has got pineapple on it. It's kind of sweeter. And I said, don't slice the pizza. Don't slice it, and make it with a real thin crust. And then when they delivered it, I just took it and I rolled it into a big, like a log of pizza. As I was running. It got all over.
Try that.
It was good. Yeah, it was so good.
It's gonna make your tummy go a little bit funny though, surely.
Yeah.
Well, when you're running 200 miles, you need solid food. I mean, I'm out there for 48 hours, so you can't just live on energy bars and gels.
Has to be a log of pizza.
And I guess that's what's quite appealing about doing an ultra marathon, is that you can actually have like a meal on the journey. It's like a little adventure, or big adventure.
I ate a whole pizza, and at the end of the race, I still lost 5 pounds. So it's a new diet. You just start running, and you can eat whatever you want.
Brilliant.
I like to call an ultra a long distance buffet. So you just eat
So you've gone from extremes of running in different temperatures as well, haven't you? Because you've done the South Pole Marathon and Badwater, which is, you know, as hot as it comes and as cold as it comes, I guess.
Yeah, the Badwater Ultramarathon is really something else. It's a 135-mile continuous foot race across Death Valley in the middle of summer. So Death Valley is the hottest place on earth, and you literally have to run down the white line on the side of the road, which is a little bit cooler because the blacktop gets over 200 degrees. And the first time I tried it, it melted the bottom of my shoes off.
Wow. And that's the only, I think, is that the only race in the book that you actually didn't complete the first time?
Yeah, that one sent me to the hospital.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, neither was I. I mean, I remember running and feeling completely out of it, as though I was, you know, hallucinating, seeing things in the desert. I saw dinosaurs off in the desert, and then I had this hallucination of a 49er, you know, one of the gold pan guys, like in California, the minor 49ers. Yes. He had a big white beard, and he had overalls on, and he came walking across the road to me, and he had a gold can, and he held it out, and I'm looking at him, and he says, water, I need water. And I had a handheld water bottle, so I turned it upside down and, you know, aspirated it into his gold can to give him some water, and I heard the water sizzling on the ground. And then I put my hand out, and I tried to touch his shoulder, and I just went right through him. And I realized he wasn't there. And then the next thing I recall is waking up in a hotel room, in an air-conditioned hotel room, with my crew looking down at me. And, you know, I thought, this is another hallucination. And I reached up, and they were real. And I said, where am I? What's going on? And they said, you know, we were driving around all night looking for you on this road, and we found you passed out on the roadside. We put you in the vehicle. We've driven you 50 miles to a hotel, the nearest hotel. We turned on the air conditioner, and you've been asleep for 7 hours. Wow. And I said to him, but I wasn't finished. Like I wasn't done. And they said, Dean, you were very done. Sure, you were very finished. Yeah.
You were. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe you could have died out there even if they hadn't have found you, or would somebody have come past eventually?
I don't know. I will say that the only person that's died out there was a Brit, unfortunately, and he wasn't even a runner. He was a photographer, a videographer, and the circumstances were pretty horrible in that he flew in from the UK to Los Angeles. He drove 7 hours to Death Valley, and he wanted to go do some filming before the race. And he walked out on these, they're called mud flats. So it's a mud flat that is pretty much, you know, baked over, so it's solid. And he walked out there with his camera, but what happens on the, they warn you not to go on these mud flaps. He broke through the surface, and below the mud is hot mud. It's almost like hot lava. It's really, really heated, and you get stuck like quicksand trying to get out of there in this, you know, scalding mud, and he literally collapsed and died.
Oh, wow. Way to go. How awful.
It's a great place to go running.
Yeah. You're not selling that one, I'm afraid. I have actually been to Death Valley, and I do know, I can testify how hot it is there. I can remember being taken to the lowest part and my fingers swelling up so much from how hot it was, and the thought of actually running. Yeah, I take my hat off to you for that one, and everybody else that does it. But you've done it how many more times now?
I've finished 10 times.
10 times.
Wow.
What's the attraction apart from it just being a ridiculous kind of feat of human endeavor? Why that? And I mean, I can't get my head around that at all.
It's about as far away from Earth as you can be while being on Earth. It's almost like another planet. It's almost like Mars when you're out there. It's so otherworldly that there's an appeal to it. It's maybe it's escapism. It's just like, I see you guys sitting in your nice, comfortable bed, and it's so, I mean, Death Valley is the extreme opposite of what you're experiencing right now. I mean, it is intense, miserable heat that is almost unescapable no matter where you go. There's no shade. I mean, you saw it, the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere. That's the race start. That's where it starts.
Is
there's
it?
No shade, there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to run. Yeah.
You do it in the middle of the summer just to make sure it's really, really hot.
That's so weird. And then of course you had the literally polar opposite, doing the South Pole one. That was a bit of an experiment, was it, for the organisers?
Well, it was the inaugural South Pole Marathon. And they told me there'd be like 40 to 50 intrepid runners from around the world all gathering at the South Pole to run this marathon. And when I got there were 3 people. And the race director was crazy. I mean, he had hair going everywhere. He was just this eccentric guy. And it's very dangerous at the South Pole. I mean, it was minus 45 degrees, and we got stuck. The plane broke down. The weather turned bad. I was supposed to be home in 10 days. So the race itinerary said it was a 10-day trip. 30 days later, I came back to San Francisco.
Oh my goodness.
My wife's like, "I'm glad you made it home. We were getting kind of worried there."
Yeah, because you didn't have a lot of communication either, did you?
Well, we had satellite phones, and the satellite phones relied on these solar chargers, because there's no plugs out there. I mean, there's nowhere you can plug anything in. And when it clouded over, the solar chargers wouldn't charge because there was not enough sunlight. So we had no communication. We were cut off from the world. Yeah.
And weren't you the only one out of the 3 of you that actually did it in running shoes?
Yeah, I didn't want to wear snowshoes because I thought it was supposed to be a running race, not a snowshoe race. So I thought, try it in your runners. But the runners I had made were specially designed. So they were a size too big for me. And I put there's these heat pads that you get when you expose them to oxygen, the air, they warm up. So I put 2 heat pads below my toes and 1 heat pad on top of my toe. And I still got frostbite afterward.
Oof. That's pretty terrifying, isn't it? Because I suppose if in bad water, when you're really, really hot, you can be given water and you can rehydrate. But something like frostbite is pretty, once it sets in, and if you don't get it back in time, I'm guessing that's pretty fatal.
It was a dangerous situation, and it was one of those things where we'd been down there for 28 days trying to do this marathon, and the race director finally said, "It's too dangerous. We'll never be able to do this." And I said, "There's no way I'm going to go home without having done this. I've invested so much time." And those are the kind of situations where people die. You do something irrational. I know a lot of mountain climbers that get very close to the summit and they're, you know, they get weathered in, you know, like within eyesight of the summit, and eventually they decide to turn around just because it's too dangerous, even though it's such a short distance and they've invested so much. And those are the kind of rational decisions that, that people make that keep them alive. And that, you know, running the South Pole is not a good idea. You know, I'm typically a sub 3-hour marathoner. It took me over 9 hours to run to the South Pole.
Wow, unbelievable. Do you think you have a natural instinct for sensing if something's going to be a good idea or not, as far as running's concerned?
No.
You just want to do it. You are a daredevil, aren't you?
I like the thrill of it. You know, everyday life to me is a little boring, and I think I just kind of long for something a little more thrilling. Yeah.
I love that Stan Lee. What is it? Stan Lee said. I've got a quote here that Stan Lee of Marvel Comics fame called Dean a real superhuman. So you are, as far as he's concerned, a superhero.
Well, they had a television show called Superhumans, and the premise of the show was to travel around the world to interview people that supposedly had superhuman powers, and either debunk them, say no, this is all not true, or confirm like, wow, this person really is kind of superhuman. So they put me on this treadmill to do this lactic acid test.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, carry on.
And they said, okay, it'll be about a 15-minute testing period. You know, we'll get your heart rate up, and after 15 minutes, we'll have our results. Well, 2 hours later, they're like, this is amazing. Like, you're not getting tired. Like, we've never seen anything like this. And I said, I gotta go pick up my son from school, so I gotta go. But they, I don't seem to develop lactic acid the way most people do. And lactic acid is a byproduct of cellular respiration. So, like, if you've ever lifted heavy weights, you know, like if you're doing some bicep curls, you lift up the weight and your arm starts to burn and you feel that shaking and that hurt, that's lactic acid. And so if you put down the weight and shake out your arm, you know, 5 minutes later, you can pick it up and do it again. And then you start getting that lactic acid. That doesn't happen to me. So, like, I've never had a muscle cramp.
Really? So that's something that's inbuilt in you. It's not because you've built that up from your running.
It's a little of both. I think anyone that runs has a better ability to buffer lactic acid, but they said your ability just is astronomical. Like, it goes above and beyond what a typical marathoner, you know, what we see in a typical marathoner or ultramarathoner.
Do you think that that is because of your hereditary and where you've come from, and you know, you're saying about Pheidippides, and you know, are you actually, you know, related to him? Because I'm sure I'm sure if they did like a chain, if they did all the we've got a program over here called Who Do You Think You Are, and they find your family from way back. I think if you went on that program, it would be fascinating, and I'm sure that they'd find out that Pheidippides was your great.
They didn't do so well for Pheidippides.
Well, you know, my family comes from the same region in Greece where he came from, but I mean, I was born in Los Angeles, and my dad always said, you know, you're part Pheidippides. You know, you come from running, you know, chasing goats in the hills of Greece. And I always say, Dad, I was born in LA. Like, we're the goats in the hills.
But it's a natural thing, isn't it? It's almost for you, I feel like it's a natural thing that you have to run. You've always been a runner from when you were small. It's always been something that you've just needed to do.
I remember my earliest childhood recollections are running home from kindergarten when I was, you know, 6 years old. I remember sitting in the classroom and just wanting to run. I mean, you know, I think the way we educate young children is a little bit wrong, because we tell young boys, you know, to sit still and pay attention. And what a young boy naturally wants to do is go running wild and not pay attention.
Yeah.
So I would sit still and pay attention. And then when the school bell rang, I just remember running and just kind of really enjoying it. Like I felt this freedom and this liberation, and that stuck with me ever since.
Amazing. Yeah. Sorry, was somebody saying something?
No, I think you're on echo, Kim.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone has any questions, that's fine.
We do have some people who want to ask questions. Ian Wilson, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, great taking the time for you to talk to us, Dean. Question I'd like to ask, have you got any?
Ian.
Yep. Have you got any tips for maintaining the running streak? I'm currently on day 368 of running at least a mile a day, so I must be doing something right. I'm just wondering if you've got any kind of tips that can add to the repertoire just to extend the streak and keep going.
It's amazing what you've been doing. So how many? It's over almost a year, right? Is it 360? How many?
Yeah, 1st of December 2019, I started doing like just a mile a day, and obviously I've just kept going for the full year, and I'm still continuing to keep going. No injuries so far, so fingers crossed. Must be doing something right.
Yeah. Do you run at the same time every day, or do you run at different times?
Different times. Sometimes I run at lunchtime, sometimes I run in the morning, sometimes in the evening. It just depends on your workload, you know. Sometimes after work you can just kind of need to get out to de-stress after work and that, you know. So it varies really, and sometimes I only do like kind of a mile, but sometimes I do longer, and I've done kind of ultra stuff as well. So
Do you have a goal for how long you want to keep the streak going?
not really. I mean, first my goal was like to start, like I started doing it a couple of years ago, like 30 days, and I've kind of extended it, and then this year was the first year I've managed to do a full year. So I'm just seeing where it goes now, because obviously the full year is quite a bit of a holy grail for the first one, you know. If I can keep going, then so be it. I mean, I'm in some other Facebook groups, and I see some people going for like 10 years of running every day, and it's like, wow.
I mean, I think you're amazing. So I mean, I don't know I am amazed. I just encourage you to keep going. I think that you're an inspiration. I think that maybe you should keep a log or a record of your runs. And I think people would love to read, you know, what's going through your head, especially on those days when you don't want to do it, how you get yourself out the door. I think it'd be very inspiring.
Yeah, there's been some weird times. I mean, obviously there's been times when to keep me streak going, I've went out and done a run at 12 o'clock midnight after a night out on the town, just to keep it going, because I knew I was going to be too worse for wear the next day, and that, you know, and the shops and things, getting creative with their running streaks, I think, you know. So
What he has
Yeah, I mean,
drove all the way from the northeast down to London just to run Bushy Park Run. He drove through the night to turn up in London.
Yeah, I did, Mel. That's right.
If you start to travel when the pandemic's over, will you run in the airport?
I've not done that yet, but I guess I probably could do.
I think that would be really interesting when you're traveling around, how you keep it up.
Yeah, provided you get the GPS signal, I think.
It's not on Strava.
It's not on Strava.
Not Strava, I can't.
Alan, have you got a question?
I have indeed, Kim. Dean, the running gods have noticed that you're quite good and that you've run in some amazing places, but they've decided you can run every day, but there are limits. You've got to run the same place and the same route every day for the rest of your life. So given that you can choose any distance and any place in the world, where would you choose to make that run?
It would be Greece. It would have to be Greece. I mean, anyone who's been to Greece, you know how magical it is. And me being 100% Greek, I think it would have to be somewhere in Greece.
Would that be the Sparta route by any chance?
Probably the Sparta route, or maybe the final marathon route from the Plains of Marathon to Athens. You know, it's right now the Athens Classic Marathon route, which is, I don't know if anyone has run that particular race, but that'd probably be a good one.
Excellent, good. We'll join you.
I would love that.
Is there any way
Fordy
you've
road
run
trip.
that you've never wanted to run again?
I couldn't hear the question on that one.
Is there anywhere you've run that you've never ever wanted to go and do again? You know, the sort of flip side of Because I think we've all probably got a race that's a nemesis for one reason or another, but is there something you've never gone back to do or repeat?
I think it'd be an easy race that I've done. You know, I think the easy races I don't necessarily enjoy very much. I really like the tough races.
Yeah.
But, you know, that being said, I also love races that are a great experience. Like, you know, I live in San Francisco and we're not far from the Napa Valley. So I did it's called the Wine Country Half Marathon that goes from Napa to Sonoma. And I did this with my daughter, Alexandria. And we ran together. And at the 8-mile mark, when we got to the aid station, we noticed they started serving wine.
Excellent.
So I said,
It's our kind of race.
Mine too.
So we started drinking wine along the way, and that was probably the best. I'd love to go back and do that race. That was probably the best race of my life.
I think half of the book club would be signed up for that one, actually.
I was meant to do the marathon Jamaica in September, and it was cancelled, obviously. And my friends put it on locally for me, and every 2.5 miles, I was plied with wine and cheese, and it was the best marathon I've ever done. And it was so comfortable, no pain the next day. Definitely recommend.
We watched actually your YouTube film of 50 marathons in 50 days in 50 states, and that was another amazing feat. Did you have a favorite marathon out of all of those? I'm guessing New York probably, was it?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, every single marathon was memorable. I mean, there were moments in each one that I'll never forget. And it's funny, that was over a decade ago that I ran all those 50 marathons continuously. I can remember every single one. They're kind of imprinted on my mind. So there were so many special moments along the way. It's hard to pick out one. I mean, certainly New York City, it was good to reach the finish line, which, you know, I was always wondering whether I'd make it or not. And that was a nice moment. But, you know, there's something to be said about the journey. I think that, you know, once you reach the destination, it's almost empty. Like, it's done, you did it, but it's the journey that I really cherish. So it was a lot of the marathons, you know, around 20, 25, those sort of marathons where you're still kind of, you know, just immersed into the whole thing of, you know, can I make it? What will tomorrow bring? You know, every new day is a mystery. And so there, you know, I can't say one was better than the other. You know, I ran the San Francisco Marathon, and, you know, they say there's a saying, it's always best in your own backyard. So that was certainly special. Yeah.
Okay.
And from the organised races, how many people signed up to run with you when you were kind of just running midweek and stuff? Because that was awesome to see people just kind of join in and just want to be part of that journey, as you say.
Yeah, that really was something that I encouraged. Like, when I decided I want to do this, I thought it can't just be about me, like one guy, you know, trying to go out and do this. It's got to be inclusive and bring in other people. So at the marathons that were not the actual live marathon, you know, like on Tuesday in Iowa, the race director of the Iowa City Marathon would set up his official starting line and let the group follow his sanctioned and certified course and finish at the official finish line. So we had a record of doing that marathon, and we had permits for up to 50 people to join me along the way. And I'll tell you what, by the end, the 49th marathon in New Jersey, there were about 300 people.
Wow.
So it was almost like Forrest Gump. I mean, it was such a great.
Yeah.
How did it take you to facilitate that, you know, to get all of that all together? Because I think you had sponsorship, didn't you, from North Face, it looked like. But just curious about, was that years of planning?
Well, you know, I thought the logistics alone are so complex, I won't be able to do this myself. So we worked with the agency that does the Olympic torch run across the U.S.
Oh, okay.
And they coordinated all of the, you know, the route and everything, because just picking the route alone was really challenging. So they picked the route. And, you know, the other thing is my mom is a retired public school teacher. Mm-hmm. So my kids came along, and my mom homeschooled them. And the kids said they were road schooled. So we had the mothership, and she was teaching every morning, and then they'd meet me at the finish of the marathon. So it was really great having my family along.
I bet. And for somebody who is a self-confessed introvert, how hard was it for you to have lots of people around who obviously wanted to chat to you all the way while you were running these marathons? It must have been, for someone who's used to running ultra marathons on their own, essentially. How tricky was that for you?
It was pretty trying, especially the media interviews. You know, I did so much media around this, it got pretty overwhelming. And it was funny. So we finished in New York City, and as you know, I live across the country in San Francisco, and no one had thought to purchase a flight for me to get back.
How rude.
Yeah, we didn't even think about it. I mean, I don't know, it was just kind of an oversight. So I said to my wife, you know, I really need to kind of clear my head out. Do you mind if I run home? And she said, that's fine. So I'll never forget, the next day after the 50 marathons, I bought a jog stroller, you know, the strollers you push a child in. And I put all my luggage in there, and I started running home from New York back to San Francisco. So I ran 1,300 miles. I ran halfway across the country, coming back to San Francisco, just by myself. I was, you know, sometimes camping out in parks. People would have me over, and I'd spend the night on their couch. Wow. And I was running all by myself. Yeah.
Have you ever encountered anything, any danger while you've been out running in the night, especially?
I've had many bear encounters. So
oh, really?
I've come across a lot of bears. I've never seen a mountain lion, but the saying goes, you don't see mountain lions.
Oh.
You know, yeah, they're pretty stealthy. Yeah, but never seen a mountain lion. Seen lots of rattlesnakes, a lot of snakes. Yeah, a lot of scorpions, a lot of tarantulas.
Oh. Yeah, we don't really get that here. The worst thing at running at night here is probably you get run over by a car or a lorry or something. But yeah,
drivers you have over there are a little
crazy. Yeah, definitely. Do you have any regrets?
I guess my biggest regret was not buying Apple stock at $6.
Oh.
Yeah, we've got that one.
That is a big one, yeah. Well, has anybody else got any questions for Dean before we let him go?
Yeah, I've got one. Go on, let someone else who was that. I didn't catch that. Go on.
Sorry, yeah, it's Ian. Thanks, Kim. Hello, Dean. I was just wondering how would you advise people to be preparing for an ultra mentally? You know, what sort of mental? Do you really have to be a bit crazy to even think about it?
No, I don't think you do. In fact, it's amazing when I go to ultra marathons, because I look around at some of the people running, and a lot of them, they don't look that fit. You know, and you wonder, how's this person going to run, you know, 50 miles? But it's up here. That's what I've learned. It's way more of a mental challenge than a physical challenge. And I think people that are able to accomplish it, they reset their paradigm. They just, you know, they don't have a time goal. They just say, my goal today is to reach the finish line, and I'm going to do my very best at that effort. And they run when they can, and they walk at times. They enjoy themselves, but they keep, it's this relentless forward progress. So they keep moving forward. And a lot of the ultra marathons have, you know, the pretty liberal cutoff times. They might allow 12 or 15 hours to run a 50K. And I think that's a really great thing, because it encourages people to try. So I think that the best thing to do with an ultra marathon is just shift your paradigm and say, my goal today is just to finish and enjoy myself. I'm not gonna look at my clock. I'm not gonna set a time goal. I'm not gonna try to hit a PR. I'm gonna finish this race.
Great, thanks.
So related to that, I'm 50 this year, and I want to do 50K and 50 miles next year. I've done a few marathons, but I don't know how to make that step up. What would you recommend for the first timer stepping up to an ultra in terms of training?
I think that, first of all, congratulations. I think it's a great goal. And I would say that you ought to go on maybe a 10-hour training run. I know that sounds crazy, but you don't even look at your mileage. I mean, just go out for 10 hours, pick a route and run for 10 solid hours. So maybe it's an out and back along the river, run for 5 hours and turn around and come back for 5 hours. Just be on your feet for 10 hours, because when you're running an ultramarathon, you're on your feet for a long time, especially a 50 miler. I mean, you might be out there for 15, 16 hours, and that's just a long time to be on your feet. So train your body to be moving forward for that, really long duration.
And take wine, yeah?
Wine and pizza. Lots of pizza, lots of wine.
Obviously. Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions for Dean before we let him go?
I've got two, so can I come in with my supplementary?
Go on,
Dean,
then.
I think most of us in this group will remember running our first half marathon or our first marathon, and waking up in the following morning and kind of looking at our shoes and socks and going, how do we even contemplate putting them on? So what does active recovery look and feel like if you've just run 100 miles on a Sunday? What does Monday morning really feel like for you?
It depends. If I'm able to keep my electrolytes in balance, it can be not so bad. Other times it can be like I was in a train wreck. You can't even fathom how you're going to get to the bathroom from your bed. So it really depends, I think, on the particular race and how well your body fares. Some races, there seems to be a formula that it's not so bad to run 100 miles. Other times it's sheer misery. So it really depends. The one thing I always force myself to do is run the day after a long race.
So it's the following day. You're getting out of bed. Right.
I mean, I say run, I mean more like shuffle. And maybe 1 or 2 miles, just get out and get your heart rate elevated. I think the idea of active recovery versus passive recovery is really helpful. So I always encourage people, after your half marathon or your marathon, the next day run a little bit. And people say, really? Shouldn't I just, eat pizza on the couch for 5 days? And that'll make it worse. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's good to know. So you've still been writing. You're writing. You've got another book on the go, apparently. I understand. We're actually. I'm halfway through this one, The Road to Sparta, which I can thoroughly recommend. It's just as gripping as Ultramarathon Man, and I think Dean's got a new book out called. If I can find it. Can you see that? A Runner's High.
Wow.
There we go. Is it all back to front and inside out?
No,
we can see it. We can see it.
But it's called A Runner's High, My Life in Motion. So just give us a little quick synopsis on that, and we'll be rushing out to buy it first thing in the morning.
Well, but I'd love for you to do that, except it won't be out until April.
Okay.
I haven't finished with it yet, so it'll be out in April. It'll give you something to look forward to, but it's basically a sequel to Ultramarathon Man. So all of my books are kind of themed, like, Ultramarathon Man was kind of a coming of age, like learning about ultramarathoning, and A Runner High is about how I've been able to do this for close to 2.5 decades, how I've sustained myself and how I've stayed committed to just being the man I am, just a simple man, a simple runner, how I've stayed true to my mission and the ups and downs along the way. And it's a fun and festive read. In fact, now I'm thinking back on it, there's a really great moment toward the end of the book where I met a runner from the UK. It was unbelievable. So I was running the Western States 100-mile endurance run. It was the 12th time I'd been running it. And I was having some doubts whether I had a purpose in the sport any longer, whether I was still relevant. I mean, let's face it, I'm not ending up on the podiums now. I mean, I'm an older man and there are a lot of young kids that are very fast. I was kind of questioning what am I doing? Why am I, you know, am I holding on for too long? Do I have meaning and purpose? And I stopped at this aid station. It was at mile 85. And I went to empty out my shoes, and I sat down next to someone, and the person said, "Hey, I know you." And I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was really in a bad place, in a dark moment. And I said, "Oh, that's great." And he said, "My name's Simon." And I said, "Oh, hi, Simon." And he said, I met you at a run in Hyde Park 5 years ago. And I said, "Oh, wow." And he said, "You so impressed me, I decided I wanted to maybe try an ultra marathon. And at the end of the run, you signed my book for me." And I said, "Oh, that's great, Simon." And I was just trying to get away from him, you know, just to end this because I was so exhausted. And he said, "You want me to tell you what you wrote in my book?" And I said, "Sure, Simon, whatever." And he said, "You wrote in my book, 'I'll see you at Western States.'"
Oh, that's giving me goosebumps.
Cool.
I mean, it was so random, you know, to come upon him after 24 hours of running in the middle of nowhere and just happened to sit next to this guy where I wrote, "I'll see you at Western States" in his book. And then after that, he said, "Thank you." He said, "This has been the best experience of my life."
Oh,
Yeah.
that's lovely.
That's wonderful, isn't it? Absolutely wonderful. And what a lovely story to finish on. Thank you so much for your time today, Dean. Really, really appreciate it. And I think I can say for everybody that you really are an inspiration. And I want to do an ultra marathon now. I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't sign up now.
Yeah, it's recorded, so you're on the record now. We heard her.
Yeah, we got it, Kim.
Oh,
Yeah, you
that's
recorded.
No, I will. I'm going to.
I'll be there
see you
to
at Western States.
Anything over 26.2, Kim, so you could just do 26.3, that counts.
Because we did the virtual London Marathon this year, and because it was on an app, some of us had to run a little bit further than 26.2 for it to register. So I think I actually have already done an ultra.
I was going to say that, Kim. You've achieved it already. You're there.
There we go. But yeah. Anyway, we will let you go now, Dean. Thank you so much. And yeah, we can't wait for the new book to come out. And in the meantime, we'll be reading all your other ones.
Yeah, thanks, Dean.
I'm going to go running now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.